Hello everyone. In this video we are going to discuss about the hydrogen bonding. Now hydrogen bonding, as we said, is a special case of dipole-dipole interaction. So what are dipole-dipole interactions? We have talked about them during our discussion on the intermolecular forces. So if you take for example a polar covalent molecule like a HCl, the hydrogen here will have a partial positive charge and chlorine will have a partial negative charge. You take another HCl molecule, the hydrogen here will have a partial positive charge and it will have a partial negative charge, chlorine. So we will see there is going to be a kind of attractive force between the partially positive charged hydrogen of one HCl molecule and partially negative charged chlorine of the other HCl molecule. So these interactions are what we call as the dipole-dipole interactions. But how the hydrogen bonding is different from the regular dipole-dipole interactions, that is what we are going to see first when we talk about the definition of hydrogen bonding. Then we will see what are the applications of the hydrogen bonding, because hydrogen bonding as such, right, has got some important applications both in organic chemistry as well as inorganic chemistry. So first let us begin understanding what is this hydrogen bonding. So hydrogen bonding is defined as the force of attraction existing between a hydrogen atom. So particularly, generally dipole-dipole interactions can be between any atoms, but here we are fixing on what? The hydrogen atom. The bonding must be involving hydrogen atom. Hydrogen atom covalently bonded to a highly electronegative atom like a nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. So you look at the example here. The hydrogen is covalently bonded to fluorine. Okay, and the bonding of this particular hydrogen atom, right, is with the electronegative atom belonging to the same or another molecule. So here we are basically discussing about the two scenarios. So what is it? The particular hydrogen atom, in this case the hydrogen atom is covalently bonded to what? An electronegative element like fluorine. You can see here. Okay, so here what are we talking about? We're talking about this particular hydrogen which is going to be now bonded to. Bonding means what? It's like, attractive force. This hydrogen atom is now attracted to what? Another electronegative element which is belonging to the same molecule or different molecule. So here in the example that is discussed here, right, so the hydrogen of one HF molecule is having an attraction with the fluorine of the other HF molecule, you can see. And how are we representing this attraction? We are representing this attraction by using what? Dotted lines. You can see we are indicating it what? Dotted lines. So this is what we will be calling as the hydrogen bonding. And here the hydrogen of one molecule is attracted to the fluorine of the other molecule. So accordingly we will see that this hydrogen bonding, right, is going to be divided into two categories. One is what we call as the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So that is what we are seeing in the case of the HF. There will be one more hydrogen bonding type, that is called as what? Intramolecular. Means it is going to be within, like when the hydrogen is going to be attracted to another atom of that same molecule. That is what we call as intramolecular. We'll talk about it. Okay, so these are the two types of hydrogen bonding we are going to look at. So what is it? Essentially, hydrogen here must be bonded to, that is, these are the conditions. Hydrogen must be bonded to what? A highly electronegative element. So what are the ones that we are discussing here? Either oxygen or fluorine or nitrogen, like that. Okay, and this particular hydrogen is going to be what? Attracted to another electronegative element. It will be attracted to another electronegative element, like we will call it as X. X is also what? Electronegative element. That X will be either belonging to the same molecule or different molecule. The X is belonging to different molecule means what? That is going to be called as intermolecular. The X is belonging to same molecule means it will be what? Intramolecular, within the molecule. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll look at try understanding a bit on the strength of the hydrogen bonding. See this word, right, hydrogen bonding, we can say it's a misnomer. Why? Because it is not like a chemical bonding is happening. This is what? This is a attractive force, but still we'll keep using the word hydrogen bonding. Okay, So the strength of the hydrogen bonding depends upon the electronegativity of the atom involved in the hydrogen bonding. Atom involved means what? That particular atom that is involved other than hydrogen, right? So you see, if you have a hydrogen bonding involving fluorine, for that what is that bond energy? It's not a bond, but the energy of interaction, right, is measured to be what? It will be measured to be 10 kilocalories per mole. And if it is oxygen, then it is coming down to what? 7. If it is nitrogen, it is coming down to what? 2, which means more the electronegativity of that particular atom involved, because you see, fluorine is more electronegative than oxygen than nitrogen. In fact, fluorine is the element with highest electronegativity. Second highest is what? Oxygen. Okay, so more the electronegativity of the atom involved in the hydrogen bonding, more is going to be the bond strength. Okay, so when we say bond strength, what we need to keep in mind is we are talking about the hydrogen bond. Okay, so this is about the strength of the hydrogen bonding. Next, we look at these two categories of hydrogen bonding. We said what these two types are there. One is intermolecular hydrogen bonding, which is also called as what? Association. So the intermolecular hydrogen bonding will be leading to what? Association. So what is it? It is the hydrogen bonding involving two or more molecules. You can see the fluorine of one HF molecule is bonded to hydrogen of another HF, like that. So as a result, what is happening? Association means these molecules will now be attracting each other. The molecules will now be what? Attracting each other. As a result, what happens? If you want to move away the molecules, means if the molecules are closely packed in the solid state, we want to move them away, means we want to convert the solid into liquid, then we have to spend more amount of energy. As a result, what we'll see is that melting point will be increasing. Similarly, if you have the substance in the liquid state, there is a hydrogen bonding, association is happening. You want to convert the liquid into vapor, means again we want to move away these molecules, which means again we have to spend more amount of energy, because there is association between these molecules now. So as a result of this intermolecular hydrogen bonding, generally what we are going to observe is the melting points and boiling points of these substances are going to be increasing. Means you have a substance in the liquid state, it has got intermolecular hydrogen bonding. What are we going to observe? The boiling point of the particular liquid, right, will be considerably high because of this association phenomena. Okay, so we'll see in the examples, when we go to the examples of the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So we look at some examples here. Even when we go to the respective groups, like when we go to the P block in +2 there and all, whenever we get that hydrogen bonding application, right, we'll talk about it. Okay, the other one is what? Intramolecular, within the molecule. What is the other type of hydrogen bonding called as? Intramolecular. Okay, so this intramolecular hydrogen bonding will lead to a phenomena called as what? Chelation. So chelation is generally about this word chelation, right? Again we will talk about it when we go to the +2 coordination compounds. In +2 we'll have a chapter called as what? Coordination compounds. There we'll be using this word chelation, so maybe you can make a note of it. When we go there, we'll look at it again. Okay, so what is this chelation? So if there is an hydrogen bonding taking place within the single molecule, right, then this will be leading to what we call as a cyclic or sort of a ring formation. So it will be leading to what? A cyclic or a ring formation. So we'll see how it is going to happen. Here the molecule that we are seeing, right, this is actually called as orthonitrophenol. So what is the name of this compound? It is what? Orthonitrophenol. So what is this? If you have a OH group on the benzene ring, so on the benzene ring we have OH group, right, this is actually called as a phenol. It's a very important organic compound. Okay, and here you see there will be two positions adjacent to the position where the OH group is attached. These two positions are called as what? They are called as ortho positions. Again, about this naming we'll study again in the organic chemistry. The places that will come later will be called as what? Meta positions. The position that will be exactly opposite to the place where we keep the OH group will be called as what? Para. So what is the name of the compound? I said orthonitrophenol. Why this name? See, this is the carbon where we have the OH group, and adjacent position, that is what ortho, right? Adjacent position is called as what? Ortho. On ortho position we have a NO2 group. What is NO2 group called as? Nitro. So that is how the name orthonitrophenol comes. Now in orthonitrophenol we have a hydrogen bonding happening between the oxygen of that nitro group and hydrogen of the OH group. You see, this is the one. And what is it leading to? Cyclization. You see, there is a ring kind of a thing formed. That is why we are calling it as what? Chelation. So the intermolecular hydrogen bonding results in association, and intramolecular hydrogen bonding results in what? Chelation. Now what we'll do is we'll look at the examples or applications of it. So let us start with the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So what is the thing that we talked about it? This is going to generally result in the higher melting point and boiling point observations, correct? So look at it. If you talk about the hydrides of the 16th group elements, 16th group elements are what? Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. Hydrides of them: H2O, H2S, H2Se, H2Te and H2PO. So the hydrides, right, generally as we go down the group, the molecular weight will be what? The molecular weight of these hydrides will be what? Increasing. And as a result of the increase in the molecular weight, right, what is going to happen is the van der Waals forces. Remember what we said? The van der Waals forces will be depending upon the molecular weight of the substances, because more molecular weight means what? More number of electrons will be there in that particular substance, and hence more amount of the dispersion forces. So if you go by the molecular weight trend, what is expected is, as we go down the group, since the molecular weight is increasing, we expect that the melting points and the boiling points will be what? Increasing as we go down the group. That is in fact true for what? Look at it. H2S, what is the melting point? -85. H2Se, what is the melting point? -66. H2Te, what is the melting point? -51. It is increasing, right? So from -85 it is becoming -66, then it is becoming -51. It is increasing. And same is the case with the boiling point also. -60, -41, +2. It is also increasing. But what about the case of water? Look at it. It is abnormally high. What is the melting point of H2O? It is what? 0. It is higher than everything. What is the boiling point of H2O? It is 100, +100. It is higher than everything. So this abnormally higher value of the melting point and boiling point of H2O is explained based on the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So you see that there is association happening. There is a hydrogen bonding between the hydrogen of one H2O molecule and the oxygen of other, like that. This will happen both in the liquid state as well as in the solid state. This is going to be happening both in the liquid state as well as the solid state. And because of this, right, what are we seeing? We see that H2O will have a very high melting point and high boiling point. Okay. Now next we look at another application of the intermolecular hydrogen bonding, which is used in explaining the reason why ice will have lesser density than water. So if you look at some of the practical observations, right, like if you take some ice blocks and drop them into water, what we'll see is that the ice will be floating on water. So this is a very common observation that we'll make. So whenever any substance is floating on water means what? The density of that particular substance is lesser than that of the water. Now we'll see why the ice density is less than that of the water. In solid state, right, there will be a crystal structure where every water molecule is associated. Okay, so with each oxygen surrounded by 4 hydrogen atoms. We can see each oxygen here, right, is surrounded by how many hydrogens? 4 hydrogens. 2 of these hydrogen atoms are covalently bonded. You can see that dark lines, they are what? Covalent bonding. And 2 of them will be what? Hydrogen bonded. You can see this dotted line. Dotted lines are what? The hydrogen bonding. So the oxygen will be covalently bonded to 2 hydrogens and hydrogen bonded to 2 hydrogens. Okay, and this will give rise to what we call as an open cage structure. So in this there will be voids. Voids means what? This is an empty space. So here the molecules will be occupying more volume because there are gaps, means volume will be what? High. Volume is high means what? Accordingly the density will be what? Lesser. And when we melt the ice, these ice hydrogen bonds will be broken, and we will see that the water molecules will basically come little bit more closer in the liquid state. As a result, the space between the water molecules decrease. Space decreasing means what? The overall volume they occupy will decrease, hence density will be what? Increasing, because what is the density formula? Mass by volume, right? And hence we will see that in the liquid state the density is going to be what? Higher. In fact, even within the liquid state, right, the association of the water molecules will be maximum when we reach close to 4 degrees centigrade. That is when we will have the association to be maximum. Means what? The particles will be coming very much closer at that particular temperature. That is the reason why the density of water is maximum at that particular temperature of 4 degrees. When we move away from the temperature, either we go below 4 degrees or we go above, what we will see is that the intermolecular distance will be increasing, and hence the overall density will be decreasing. Okay, so this is the reason why we have the water having maximum density at the 4 degrees centigrade. And the open cage structure in the solid state is the reason why ice has got lesser density than that of the liquid water. Okay, we look at one more example of this intermolecular hydrogen bonding, that is in the case of alcohols. Now alcohols are what? Generally when we have an alkyl group R which is attached to a OH group, this is what we call as the alcohol. Like you can see methyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol, like that. Okay, a corresponding compound where the oxygen is replaced by sulfur, right, we will call it as the mercaptans. So what will be the general formula for the mercaptans? It will be what? RSH. In place of oxygen, just think about a sulfur being there, that's it. Okay, so if you look at it, right, the melting and boiling points of these alcohols will be higher than the corresponding mercaptans. Again, because of what? Because of the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. In case of mercaptans, it is sulfur. Sulfur is what? Less electronegative element, so there we will not have the hydrogen bonding. Whereas in the case of alcohols, you can see the oxygen of alcohol will be at hydrogen bonded to the hydrogen of another alcohol molecule. So there will be what? There will be the association happening. So whenever there is association, means what? That will lead to the melting points and boiling points being higher than the expected values. So that is the reason why the alcohols, right, will be having marked difference. They'll have a marked difference in terms of their boiling points and melting points comparison to the corresponding mercaptans. We can see here the CH3OH, what is the boiling point? 64. What about the boiling point of CH3SH? 5.8. C2H5OH? 78. What about the corresponding mercaptan? 37. C3H7OH? 97. What is the corresponding mercaptan? 67, like that. We'll see the corresponding alcohols will have a higher boiling point than the mercaptans. Now we'll move on to the intramolecular hydrogen bonding. So we have seen this will lead to what? This will be leading to chelation. So the example that we will see here is orthonitrophenol. So we talked about it when we were looking for examples of the intramolecular hydrogen bonding, means within the molecule. So ortho means what? This is the carbon on which we have the alcohol group, and the adjacent place is taken by the nitro. Nitro group means what? NO2 group. You will see the oxygen of the NO2 group is hydrogen bonded to the hydrogen from the OH group. So this is leading to the formation of that cyclization or cyclic kind of an arrangement. This is what is the chelation. Now we have two more forms of this nitrophenol. One will be meta. So like say for example, we have the OH group here and we have the NO2 group here. This is what we call as the meta. Okay, and we have the nitro group on the exactly opposite side carbon. This will be what? This will be the para form. Okay, so the association is going to happen in the case of the meta and para versions. Why? Because here the within molecule hydrogen bonding is going to be difficult. So this is going to be what? Difficult. So chelation is not going to happen in the case of the meta and the para. What will happen is association. So association will happen in what way? If we have the oxygen of nitro group from one molecule, hydrogen bonded to the OH group hydrogen from the other molecule like that. So that is going to lead the association. So what we will see is that orthonitrophenol will be more volatile. More volatile will be what? When the boiling point is less. You can see boiling point is what? 214. Meta, you see boiling point, what is it? 290. What about the para? 279. So in case of meta and para, what are we having? We are having the association. In case of ortho, what are we having? Chelation. So here association is actually missing. So that is the reason why the boiling point of the ortho will be lesser, and hence this orthonitrophenol will be what? More volatile. So this is how we'll explain the volatile nature, higher volatile nature of the orthonitrophenol. And like we mentioned, the intramolecular hydrogen bonding is also going to be useful in explaining the reactivity of the substances. Particularly we'll talk about it when we go to the organic chemistry. But here we'll just pick up one example to see how we can talk about the reactivity. Reactivity means there are different ways of understanding the reactivity. So here the example we are going to look at is salicylic acid will be a stronger acid than orthomethoxybenzoic acid. Salicylic acid means we have a COOH group adjacent to OH group. That is what is salicylic acid. Orthomethoxybenzoic acid means here we have this O minus will be attached to what? Previously it will be attached to hydrogen. Okay, so here also the O minus is attached to what? Hydrogen. Now once the salicylic acid is losing the hydrogen bond to the COOH group, that will form the salicylate ion. So here if the orthomethoxybenzoic acid is losing the hydrogen, right, it will be forming what? Orthomethoxybenzoate ion. Now in salicylate ion, right, there is a hydrogen bonding. The O minus oxygen will be hydrogen bonded to what? It will be hydrogen bonded to the hydrogen from the OH group. So this is what is going to lead to the stability. This will be leading to what? Stability of the salicylate ion. Since the salicylate ion is stable, like look at it now, we have salicylic acid on protonation. Protonation means what? Losing H plus. Is giving us what? It is giving us salicylate ion. So the salicylate ion is more stable means what? It is more stable because of the hydrogen bonding that is happening, intramolecular hydrogen bonding. As a result, product is more stable means what? This reaction is going to happen to more extent. So that is the reason why we see what? The salicylate ion will be able to form to a large extent, means the salicylic acid will be able to dissociate to a large extent. Whereas in case of this orthomethoxybenzoate ion, right, we don't see here, we don't have an hydrogen bonded to, here the hydrogens are bonded to what? Carbon. Carbon is not a highly electronegative element, right? So these hydrogens cannot show the hydrogen bonding. These hydrogens will not be able to show the hydrogen bonding. So this is how we can explain the stability of the salicylate ion, and hence the higher acidic strength of the salicylic acid in comparison to what? Orthomethoxybenzoic acid. Like this we will be able to pick up some more examples when we go to the specific cases in organic chemistry. Okay, but this is how we look at how the hydrogen bonding, particularly what? The intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Intramolecular hydrogen bonding will lead to chelation, and that can affect the reactivity of the molecules. So this will be finding applications in organic chemistry. Okay, now talking about the comparison of the hydrogen bonding. Like say we said the hydrogen bonding is a special case of dipole-dipole interaction, but particularly when the hydrogen is bonded to highly electronegative element like a fluorine, oxygen, nitrogen, means here the bond polarization will be more. So the hydrogen bond strength, right, will be more than the regular dipole-dipole interactions. So normally what is the trend we have in terms of the intermolecular forces? Dipole-dipole interactions are stronger than dipole-induced dipole, stronger than the dispersion or London forces. So here what we see, hydrogen bond will be more stronger than the dipole-dipole interactions. Okay, but what about the comparison with the regard to the regular bonding? So regular bonding, right, ionic bond where we'll have the oppositely charged ions, like in the case of NaCl, the positive charged ions and negative charged ions, they will be attracted by what? The electrostatic forces. They will be attracted by the electrostatic forces. This ionic bonding, right, will be a stronger one. That is the reason why ionic compounds will generally have what? Higher melting points and higher boiling points. So ionic bond will be, bond strength will be more than the covalent bond. Okay, so we can look at it based on the bond energy or bond enthalpy, which will be stronger than the metallic bonding. So this is the comparison in terms of the regular bonds. Ionic bond will be more stronger than the covalent bond, which will be stronger than the metallic bonding, and the hydrogen bonding will be having the least strength when we try to compare this with the regular bonding. When we try to compare this with the regular bonding, what is the trend? Ionic is more stronger than the covalent than the metallic bonding. Hydrogen will be the least. Okay, but when we try to compare this with the intermolecular forces, right, hydrogen bonding will be the strongest. So this is what we need to learn about the hydrogen bonding, the types of hydrogen bonding, in which cases we are going to get the hydrogen bonding, and what are the applications of the hydrogen bonding.